In terms of doing a combat jump, what's that like?
Frightening. It varies, I suppose. My perspective was the jump is done at very low level. We jump at 500 feet because you don't want to be in the air for any longer than is absolutely necessary. So it takes about 200 feet for your chute to deploy, and then you need time to sort of think about where you're going to put your feet down. So 500 feet is about as low as you can go. You can probably go to 400, but you're really pushing the edges then. We went out at 500 feet. Getting on board the aircraft, knowing what we knew, there's a mindset to it, John. You accept these things. We knew, certainly as the SAS guys, there's this whole thing. They always said, the SAS guys, they were fearless. Bullshit. Nobody was fearless. Anybody who tells you is fearless in a situation like that is either lying to you or he's actually got no bloody brains, because, you've got to have some kind of an imagination. And it is. I mean, it's a terrifying feeling, but you've actually got to try and get down on top of that. And one of the things that we were also part of the training in the early stages was combat psychology, and we had a psychologist who used to come and give us lectures. And his big thing, and this was one of the things that I think quite a few guys were actually sort of told that they weren't wanted. Fear is an emotion. It's like love or hate or any other emotion and you've got to be able to control it. If you don't control it, it will control you. And that will lead to panic. Panic breeds panic. Now, all this sort of shit was drummed into our heads. So if you're in a situation where you are frightened and you're going to be frightened and you're going to be frightened out of your bloody wits, you've got to sit down and take yourself by the hair and talk to yourself. Because as soon as fear controls you, you're in shit. So you've got to actually get on top of it and control it. So, and I think we were all in varying degrees. We talk about controlling fear. Well, I don't know how controlled you are. If you can continue to function while shitting yourself, I suppose you're controlling it. At that point, it's not controlling you, because the first sign of fear controlling you is when you panic. Breeds on itself. It's a frightening experience, but one which you've got to learn to control. You've got to understand you've got a job to do. Now, fear takes different forms and different intensity. The time that you fear the most is before you get there, because that is the anticipation of it. And this anticipation starts to create images in your mind, and you start to imagine things. And once you're on the ground and the shit has hit the fan, and you're groveling, you've got rounds flying around your head, that is a time when, strangely enough, it's almost like a calming effect. Because your mind comes right and you start to coordinate your head and your heart, and you can work out where you are and what you're doing. And it's a strange phenomena, but it's something which in combat, while you are there, it's never as bad as it is while you're waiting.
Now, Ian, you were actually wounded in combat. Can you tell us about that experience and how that impacted you, both physically and mentally?
I was actually bloody lucky, to be perfectly honest. But unlucky and lucky, I mean, at the same time, because it could have gone either way. I mean, we were down the southeast, right down in the sort of southeast part of Rhodesia, because there had been a massive influx of bad guys coming across the border into Mabaluta, into the Gondarazo area. And we were disrupting their supply lines and their access lines and things like that. We'd gone out, and we'd been out for about 10 days. We'd laid a lot of mines along various roads. We were basically just lying up because we had intelligence coming back that vehicles were actually headed in that direction. They were, and there were quite a few of them. So we laid a few mines in the road and then set up an ambush. During the day, if you're in an ambush position, you actually more or less stay there all the time. At night, you put, say, sentries out, and then they shake up everybody. You can go and have a sleep. And we were fast asleep. And suddenly we got, come, shake. And I got up and I loosened my chest webbing. We used to wear what we call chest webbing. We used to wear magazine pouches across your chest as opposed to in your belt and things. Much easier to carry. And I'd loosened my chest webbing because I had a bloody buckle just sticking into me, and I'd sort of shaken it off. I grabbed my rifle, but then my chest webbing started to flop around. So I had to pull it back and pull it back up again, to tighten it so it wasn't flapping around. And I probably lost about 10 meters on the guys, because we were about 100 meters from the road. So now the guys are moving forward, running forward to get to the road. And there was a sort of a bend in the road just to the left of us. We were approaching it. These vehicles came and their headlights shone straight onto us. Now, they wouldn't have seen us, but I mean, it's thick bush. So, as I say, they wouldn't have seen us because they would just have seen into the bush. And images in the bush are really indiscernible. You can't see them. So we wouldn't have been seen, but obviously the thought of these headlights shining through the bush directly onto us, gave us that appearance. So everybody went to ground with leopard crawling forward. First vehicle went past because we were hoping to hit the mine. And then the second vehicle came past and everybody opened up. And whoever was on the back of that vehicle responded bloody quickly, because almost immediately our guys opened up and I was behind. I was leopard crawling forward. I got hit in the foot. Now, you know how embarrassing that is. So if you're going to get shot convincingly. You know, it was just before Christmas. We'd been in the bush we'd been out there for about 3.5 weeks, and I get shot in the foot. Well, I mean, you know, there's no mercy when something like that happens. But, you know, Mackenzie, you know, you wanted to be home for Christmas, China. You know, we know all about you. Shot yourself in the foot. But having said that, you know, the way I was leopard crawling forward, where that hit me, if my foot had been an inch forward, it would have missed. If the round had been an inch to the left, it would have hit me in the head. You know, it was just a completely random shot. The guy didn't aim it. He just returned fire very quickly. He must have been quite an alert guy. Because, you know, in the back of those vehicles, people who normally sit there, they're fast asleep most of the time. But whoever it was who fired off the round that hit me must have been quite wide awake, because it was almost immediately our guys opened up, the return fire came down on us. And I thought I'd been hit from behind, but I knew nobody was behind me. And I couldn't fire because people were ahead of me. I couldn't see where they were. So, you know, normally, if my chest webbing hadn't been bloody flopping around, I hadn't had to pull it up, I would have been in line with everybody else. We would have been right up top there and obviously closer to the road. And I would have been pretty aware of where everybody else was. But I knew that there were guys ahead of me, so I couldn't fire. And I knew that I didn't think there was anybody behind me. But all of a sudden, my foot just felt as though it exploded. It wasn't. I mean, the thing went straight through. It broke 2 bones in my foot. We basically shattered them. I could still walk on it because we had to walk out of there. And suddenly we'd taken on what we thought was 5 vehicles. There turned to be 15 vehicles. And these guys were cross. So they then started to fire back into the bush. I mean, you could see that. And it was, you know, they were giving themselves away all the time because, I mean, they just kept on firing. You could see where their tracer was going. It was miles away from where we were. And we were basically, and we had to head up and get out of the area because they were now putting in sweep groups and things like to come and look for us. And, I mean, I wasn't that seriously injured that I couldn't walk. I didn't have to be stretchered out or anything like that. I was shat on because the officer who was in charge of the thing said, listen, give somebody else your burger. And we used to carry what they called a burger, which is a huge backpack. And on it, you know, we used to have our rations, we'd have our medic's kit in my case, you'd have your sleeping bag, carry a book because, you know, in your maps. So it was quite a heavy piece of equipment. And we all carried them, probably carrying about 35, maybe 40 kgs in that bag. And when we were out on a long job like that, we all carried them because you had to have, you know, as I say, your food, your water, your whatever extra ammo that you carried.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them.